Card 19. For this problem, you need to know a bunch of things. You need to know how to find an average. That's very important. And then you also need to know how to deal with consecutive numbers. First off being what a consecutive number is, and second being how I recommend you always solve when you're dealing with consecutive numbers. When you deal with consecutive numbers, you always want to set them up the same way, and that is by basically listing them in terms of a variable. So if you have 5 consecutive numbers, in general, just 5 consecutive numbers, then you want to list them as x plus 1, x plus 2, x plus 3, and x plus 4. So as you can see, those are the 5 numbers. The first one being x, the next consecutive number being 1 more than x, because a consecutive number is in a row, right? The next one being 2 more than the original x, 3 more than, and 4 more than. Okay, so that's always how you deal with consecutive numbers. You first list them out, and then whatever you're asked to do with those numbers, you do using these as stand-ins for those numbers. So the difference with this one is that we have 5 consecutive even numbers. So you can have consecutive numbers which are just integer, 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 one after the other. If they're consecutive even, then they are basically, for example, say that's 10, 12, 14. Those are consecutive even numbers because they're consecutive, but they're only the even ones. So to get consecutive even numbers, it would be x, and then how do we get from 10 to 12? We would add 2, because the next even number is always 2 after the one before. X plus 4, x plus 6, and x plus 8, okay? So our 5 consecutive even numbers are here, and now we're going to turn that into an equation. Because we know the average of those numbers is 6. So let's write them into an average problem. I know this is going to look long and confusing, but it really will reduce very easily. So to take the average, you add up all the numbers, right? You should be very familiar with taking averages. And then you divide by how many numbers there are. In this case, there are 5, right? These are stand-ins for 5 numbers. And we know that the average of them is 6. So now let's just solve for x. We want to get rid of this 5. It's dividing, so we want to multiply it. And now, before we rewrite them all out, 6 times 5 is 30. And let's kind of reduce this before we keep going. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's. So that's 5x plus 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 6 is 12, plus 8 is 20. 5x plus 20 equals 30. Let's subtract away the 20, so we get 5x equals 10, divide by 5, x equals 2. All right, so now we can plug that back in. We know that our consecutive even numbers start at 2. So our numbers are 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. All right, so basically we get that by putting 2 in for x, 2. The next one is 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. All right, so you can really see that that works very well for dealing with consecutive numbers, or consecutive even, or consecutive odd. Now, remember that the question is not what is x. X is 2. The question is what is the smallest number plus the largest number. So make sure you go back. The smallest number is 2, plus the largest number is 10. And you just add those up. And that is the answer to the question. All right? The smallest number plus the largest number is 12.